Hi guys, we've now completed our third game of the season in Mamemeister's high score Kerfuffle, and we've definitely had our best game so far this season. That has been Cabal, which was barely on my radar until it came up 2 weeks ago. I do remember seeing Alan's arcade perfect my arse on it, which I watched again after this came up. The game was developed by Tad Corporation and released by Taito in 1988. The game is excellent, originally featuring a trackball, which I expect would have been pretty fun. But later a joystick version was released, which is what we were playing here. They really nailed the game mechanic with this one, and the game controls very well, with the release of fire to move and the roll working well too. The levels are similar to one another, but with a good game mechanic and some variation, I didn't find it too repetitive. That said, I didn't have the most time to play, and I would have liked to have played a few more goes. Even so, I still think I did okay. Something I liked was that at no point did the game feel unfair. Many arcade games steal cheap lives from you, but this one doesn't, and it's your mistakes that lose you lives. I mentioned that this game saw numerous home releases, and the last video I put out was me playing the Spectrum version of this. That version was developed by Jim Bagley, and given the constraints of the hardware, it's excellent. Very playable, with its own charm that only the Spectrum can bring. So with this week done, let's take a look at the scores. I've had 19 scores submitted to me this week, and most people have multiple stabs at this one, given how good the game was. As a result, it has proved extremely competitive, with some excellent scores at the top. Our lower scores are in the 3 to 500,000 range. Beyond that, our top 10 has me and Leagsy in the 600,000s, our chooser, My Retro Tech, along with Pearl and Milthy in the 700,000s. Our current leader Graham is down in 5th, with what is still a decent score at 900,000. Bob and Mark both led at different points, but have finished in 3rd and 4th. With a late charge yesterday, it's Blue Yak with his best ever finish in the competition, taking a 2nd place with 1.3 million. But this week's winner, and returning to his winning ways, is Big Juffer. This game has been highly competitive, so to take the win here is a great achievement, so well done to Juff. Here is the distribution of the scores. Other than Alan on the left, who only put a token 1 credit score in, the scores are pretty close. Even at the top, our winner Juff is in the same bin with Blue Yak. And then 3rd to 5th are all close behind. It looks like we have a bit of a normal distribution, but missing the upper bins. Maybe with more people or more time, a few more people will have been able to push the scores on further. And now the difficulty curve. Again we have a jump up from Alan, which shows how you can improve beyond the first coin drop. After that, the increases are pretty linear, which makes sense given the scoring is pretty linear too. There are no sections that are significantly more difficult than the others. The game just tries to wear you down through its constant barrage of bullets. And finally the progress over the week. This plot is extremely busy, showing how many people came back for multiple stabs at the game. The increases are also distributed over the 2 weeks, again showing that people were keen to come back. Early on, it was Pearl who set the first decent score, which he didn't improve on. Mark then moved things on further, before Bob took the lead later on. Mark then regained the lead, and held it until yesterday, when Bob snuck ahead, before Juff finally dropped the winning score by a decent margin. Blue Yak did his best to try and take the top spot, but ultimately fell short. Great competition on this excellent game. Now that we're 3 games down, and we finally had a game that Graham didn't win, the table is mixed up a little. Milthy is up 4 into 11th, My Retro Tech is up 3 into 8th, Blue Yak is our big mover with that 2nd place this week, up 7 places into 5th, and Mark is up 1 into 4th. There has been some movement in our top 3, with Juff getting ahead of Bob with that win, but the only person not to change place this week, and still topping the table, is Graham. His lead has been cut drastically to just 20 points. So like last season, it's Graham and Juff battling it out, and we've got Bob in close proximity too. Those 3 are all way ahead of everyone else though, so let's see if they can stay ahead with this week's game. For our next game, we're obviously moving to the letter D. I've had 17 games sent to me, and interestingly, only 2 games were selected by more than one person. Both Donkey Kong 3 and Donpachi received 2 votes each, leaving a further 13 singletons. Jaffa chose Death Smiles, and given he's taken the win, that is treble, making it the most likely game to come up. I own that game on the Xbox 360, so it'd be nice to play there, given it's a pretty much perfect port. So let's set things going and see what we get. Okay, slowing down. What are we going to get? Dangerous Seed. Could it be Donpachi? Okay, cool. So yeah, we've had Donpachi before, and that game was extremely popular. And this is the prequel, the kind of originator in that series. It's a vertical shmup from Cave. I mean, you can't really go wrong. So yeah, I'll go make a short video and be back in a sec. So this week's game is the first ever released by Cave, spawning so many great shmups, and that is the legendary Donpachi. The sequel Donpachi is probably the better known game, but this is where it started. We had Donpachi in a previous season, and this game, although I've not played it much before, it feels very familiar. It was released in 1995, and by that point the shmup genre was fairly mature, but Cave pushed things on with this bullet hell shmup. It definitely defined the format for the subsequent games, and has the same choice of 3 ships that go from powerful but straight shots to weaker but more spread bullets. If you tap fire, you can move at full speed with individual bullets firing, whereas if you hold it, then you go slower but with a focused, more powerful shot. And then finally, you have bombs to use too. We have a few good shmuppers in the group, so this should be good, but the smart money is on Pearl as always. Regarding ROM, we'll be using the Japan ROM with default settings. For our next game, we need the letter E, and there isn't the embarrassment of riches like we've had with some letters. Games that do catch my attention though are Eco Fighters from Capcom, Elevator Action from Taito, or maybe another game from Cave. Both Espridi and Espgaluda are excellent, so I fully expect most of you will be having a good time with Donpachi this week and next. And I'll be back in a couple of weeks with the scores. See you then.